Yeah, it's your boy Crypto Blood. What's going on, people? It is February 12th, 2018. And we are getting right into it today. We are, as you can probably see from the title of this video, showing you an interview. I wouldn't even call it an interview. It's more of a chat with my man Tijo from Arcane Bear. Really cool dude, man. I had an awesome time on his channel. And I think he'll actually be posting the video on his channel this week sometime. But I hope you guys enjoy this. Before we do that, you know I gotta get the preliminary stuff out the way. Shout out to my man 22 Cool Cat for asking me to play a joint from the Purple Rain All Stars CD. That was a classic. I actually forgot about that album. He didn't tell me which one to play, so I said I would play my favorite, which was Body Rock, off of that album. Hope you guys are enjoying it. And last but not least, I actually want you guys to, one of the admins, very big contributor to the Webbot chat room community, Big Curious Mom, her daughter Cora is asking, or actually running, a fundraiser for her school. So I want you guys to listen to this video, watch this video, and then definitely contribute if you can, people.
Hi, I'm Cora, and this year my school is having a jogathon to raise money for my school to pay for specials such as art, music, PE, and more. This time, I am going to raise money but with Bitcoin or Ethereum. The people who donate $50 or more with cryptos will get their name on the back of my shirt. You can also donate the old-fashioned way. Just click this link. But I prefer cryptos because once you put in the Bitcoin or Ethereum, it has a good chance to grow higher. But hurry, because it's starting to grow higher now. If you need help buying or sending money to turn in for Bitcoin, just ask my mom. To get on my shirt, pledge by Tuesday morning, please. Thank you so much. This means a lot to me and my school.
Oh, that's so awesome. And actually, I talked to Big Curious Mom. She said you guys can pledge by today. You don't have to send the funds today, but pledge by today. I'll leave a link to the Ethereum and Bitcoin wallet so you guys can help Cara out. That's awesome, man. I'm definitely going to do that. So without further ado, people, enjoy this chat with Tijo. Peace.
One of the things I've been really excited to do is just reach out to all the different influencers in any part of the space. Crypto Blood is one of those ones that's been a big fan of Cliff High, such as myself. So Crypto Blood, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
What's going on, Tijo?
Yeah, it's a beautiful day in paradise.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
You gotta work for it down here. The jungle really puts you through the ringer to make sure it functions. I was chasing tires down the jungle way the other day. Definitely makes you think sometimes.
Well, I'd rather chase a tire than running from this blizzard stuff up here, man.
Oh yeah.
In Michigan, I'm northeast. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're not too far away from Toronto then, right?
Right.
How cold has it been right now? Give us a temperature.
19 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, 19.
Yeah. It's like -7 or something, I think, in Celsius.
Right.
Close, yeah.
Yep. And I shouldn't be complaining because I've been here all my life, so should be used to it by now. But yeah, I mean, I'm blessed, man. I'm just glad to be in this space. I know as you probably are as well, and glad to be here, man. Glad to chop it up with you.
Yeah, it's fun. One of the things that I really was aiming and striving to do is just these open communications.
Right.
A lot of critical thinking comes from the ability to have that assertive idea come across. So some of the stuff I wanted to do with you today was just kind of share your background and dive in about how you got to how you got into your YouTube channel and kind of when you first started to listen to Cliff High as well, because he's such an abstract thinker. He talks about crazy alien stuff and it's all over the place. So maybe tell me a little bit about how you came to start the Crypto Blood YouTube channel.
So the Crypto Blood YouTube channel was just out of a fluke, man. I had the name. I created the Gmail account back in like 2014, and just had it. I wasn't doing anything with it, but I'm like, hey, last year, I think July or June, decided, I'm like, hey, let's do a quick vlog, just showing my trip over to my father's house. I was driving over to his house to finally get him into Bitcoin. I had been preaching it to him since 2013, and he finally said, "Hey, let's go ahead and take a crack at it." And that was my first video, and it just went from there, man. It just kind of blew up. Cliff High saw, I think, maybe my fourth or fifth video, and that's when, kind of the rush came in, and I decided to kind of take it on full time here. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
not easy to do, right? You're showing up relentlessly and consistently, and with such crazy things happening in the markets on a daily basis. The last month we've seen a massive sell-off, and a lot of people were buying in at these highs too. In the rush, this kind of emancipated feeling like, oh, this is the revolution is going to take place. And I was there
right,
in 2014 buying Bitcoin too, when
yep,
between $90 and when it jumped up to 1,200, and it feels kind of reminiscent of that. The changes we're going through, we're really growing as a community and understanding that this technology is not going anywhere.
right.
So give me a little background about the things you were doing before you started doing the crypto channel, because I personally am a dropout and chased the waves of life for a long time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, yeah, man, I before crypto, and still up to this day, a web developer, run a web development company. It's been 11 years, 12 years now, doing that, and had my try at a couple of startups, tech startups. One we're still working on. We're looking to get funding for. So I've had my trials and tribulations through that. And also, I used to have a CTA, which is a commodity trading advisory company that a friend of mine and I started back in 2006. So that essentially we were, trading high net worth individuals money for in the forex market essentially. So I was a prop trader, have a pretty it's been what 10 years of experience trading. So that's kind of my background, and really how I got into Bitcoin though was it's just funny. I was laying up in the bed one night, um, looking at a zero hedge article. And I don't know why, man, because I've been following like Max Kaiser. Um, Cliff wasn't really talking about. He had data sets about something like Bitcoin way back then, but I had never really picked up on anything up until the Zero Hedge article I was reading at like 1 o'clock in the morning one night, man. And so I'm reading it, and I'm just sitting there like, wow, this is going to change the world. And literally, Tijo, that night I got up. It was about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. I ran up to CVS. This is before Coinbase. There were no Coinbase, sites or anything like that. And that started my journey there through BitInstant, Charlie Shrim's company. So that's how I kind of got started, and then got the bug, and it's never left, man. Never left.
Yeah, it's been one heck of a ride for those of us that have been here this long too, because I think a lot of the people that jump into these markets, they're looking for those quick returns. And with your background, I had a stock portfolio, was into marketing and advertising myself, so I diversified everything that I was working on. And you're generally looking at least 3 to 5 years for these entrance and exit points. And a lot of times now people just jump in thinking, oh, this is how I'm going to make money, forgetting that when we play these games, this is money we're willing to lose. And the money bigger boys are like, okay, well, I'm willing to risk this at a total loss to gain this type of thing.
Right,
Um,
right. There,
it's
I,
hard.
I always say nowadays, a lot of the guys that got in last year are very um, spoiled, for lack of a better word. It's been periods, I know, like in 2015, man, it was Bitcoin was at 200, $250 for a whole year. just about. I didn't check Bitcoin prices, but every week or so, it was like, it was just nothing going on. I had invested tons of money in mining equipment, and it was at a loss at that point. It was just kind of just big ass expensive paperweights. So, people who haven't gone through the ups and downs, they're feeling it now for sure, for those who may have gotten in at the top. But always, I always preach, man, you never put all in at one price. You dollar cost average in and dollar cost average out, in my opinion. That's the best way to kind of, not get hit by any unexpected news or events that may be catastrophic to your portfolio value.
Yeah, there's a great book by Nassim Taleb called The Black Swan. It's kind of indicative of this thought pattern that we don't know what the Black Swan event will be or when it will happen, but we do know that they always happen.
They always happen.
So to be prepared for the unknown or the unexpected, or I guess as the quote says, expect the unexpected.
Expect the unexpected, yep.
But what's fun now is that the growth of the ecosystem has changed so much. To see all these new companies building, the infrastructure for things like Ethereum, the smart contract basis, it gives us the opportunity to see that no matter what happens to Bitcoin's price, that the market itself as a whole will continue to move forward, because it's reminiscent of the early internet days. You can't really wreck it once it's got to this point. We've almost reached that first stage of the network effect.
I think we have reached it. I think we've passed that, what some call like critical mass, as far as the infrastructure that Bitcoin has laid. And I think it's bigger than Bitcoin now, and that's good in my opinion. It shouldn't be all about Bitcoin. It should be more about the blockchain and the innovative things that a lot of these smart individuals are doing out here, man. And I just think Ethereum is one case. EOS hopefully will be another. So we will evolve and grow. And I don't know who I was talking to or listening to, but people always, not always, but I hear some people always talk about I'm a Bitcoin maximalist and all that. My personal opinion, I would never be a maximalist on anything. I think we should always adapt, always question everything, and always double check what we think is true and real, and just make sure we're on the right path, man. Because if we had a Netscape maximalist today, they would be looked at as crazy, right? So everything, in life, in reality, only thing constant is change. So I just think we should always be agile in our thinking.
Oh, absolutely. A diversified portfolio and just that diversified way to think as well.
Right.
Gary Vaynerchuk is a huge example
of that.
Him,
man.
He was able to jump in and out of Snapchat like a king. Like you don't hold on to things when they start failing. I like my diversified portfolios that even if something does drop to a fail, I haven't noticed almost any losses in my portfolio in Bitcoin terms right now, and that was always how I looked at it, was where am I sitting at with Bitcoin, not US dollars. So US dollar terms, people would be throwing up at how much money has been lost in the last month or whatever. But Bitcoin wise, the relationship between these ideas has actually stayed relatively stable. And to me, that's one of the points I think a lot of people overlook too, is that when the newbies enter the space, or when the new entrants into the space don't see that relationship of the Bitcoin value as the way we've grown to appreciate having more Bitcoin, less dependent on how many US dollars there is. This has been a relatively and extremely stable crash.
So I don't know if you have me on full view. I don't know how you're recording this, but if you don't, put me in full view, and I'm going to show you this chart here for your audience. They can kind of see that, and maybe it looks like it's inverted.
Yeah, actually, I showed this morning
on
my live show. It's funny you brought it up, because everyone's like, oh, we've never seen a crash this big. I was like, if you look at the log scale, we've seen bigger crashes many times before. This is actually relatively small in comparison. So I love that you brought that up.
Is it inverted on your side, or does it look the right orientation?
I see it right. It might cut off, sadly, the left. So to the left of the screen, ladies and gentlemen, it is cut off. We see a 93% drop now, which is in the beginning of early 2011 and 12. I believe that was the Mt. Gox debacle. without that massive crash there. So we've never seen anything that big since.
Well, okay, so I think Mt. Gox would have been 2013,
Oh,
yeah,
yes, you're
13.
right. Yeah, you're right.
That one back there was I wasn't in Bitcoin at that point. I can't remember what they would always talk about, why that we had that 93% retracement. But to say the least, this is, I just show this to people so that they understand the context of where we are, being down, what, 70% right now from highs. I just, we just need to take a step back. I think we've gotten a little greedy, and
Yeah.
our expectations have risen well past where they should be. So it's good that we have a correction like this to shake out the weak hands and build a nice base where I think we are now. So
Yeah, it's we're growing through those growing pains of almost like an adolescent child. Bitcoin, even this blockchain or this disruptive space, is only around 8 to 10 years old.
right.
Again, some of the original concepts, like one of my friends was actually the founder of Ripple before they took blockchain on. So these community-based transactions or peer-to-peer transactions had been started for a long time. Decentralized computing was around since SETI, where
70s.
you could,
Yeah.
yes, where you could share your computer's resources to search for extraterrestrial intelligence, this kind of thing. So a lot of this stuff isn't necessarily new, but we're just learning how to adapt to the decentralization of building businesses. And it's extremely inspiring too, because I think we're at, like you said, that network effect that we're about to hit and hitting now by the noticeable changes in the environment. And we had a massive sell-off in the S&P 500, the
Yeah,
FTSE,
FTSE
all
too.
in big
Yeah.
drops. Those are reminiscent. I think that the Bitcoins drop as well in the ecosystem here is that faith and confidence in the entire ecosystem, regardless of its blockchain or not, is failing right now. And I think that was bound to have a negative impact on us too, because people just start to panic and run everywhere. That's never
So
been good for any ecosystem.
yeah, so you hit it right on the head. But it's funny because as much as we hate like the dollar, like fiat currencies and stuff, where do people run mostly in a panic? First, they run to cash, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll reallocate into other asset classes. But that's probably what has happened here. So, people have run to cash, and they're going to reallocate. That's happening in the legacy financial markets right now. FTSE and the Dow are tanking at basically back where they were at the beginning of last year. So, um, yeah,
Yeah, it's interesting again to see that these are not necessarily ancillary, that there is a parallel connection to what's happening in the entire ecosystem when you
right.
abstract away from just our ecosystem of blockchain or disruptive thinking, etc. But I think we're really close now. YouTube, the internet has opened the genie out of the bag. The blockchain did the same thing. The old news media channels are dying. We
Yep.
start to see, people trust us more than they trust CNBC or
Yes.
MSNBC because they know we're not scripted. We're just having a conversation,
Right.
and I think people really value that peer-to-peer communication. So it's one of the reasons why I'm trying to reach out to as many people in the space as possible, just so we all know that we're allies in this. Like I don't
Right.
consider anyone competition. We're all allies in having our own thoughts, and I don't want any of us to get stuck in a thought pattern either. So here's a kind of abstract question. What's your
Sure.
thoughts about Bcash or Bitcoin Cash, whatever you'd like to call it?
I actually am not like against Bitcoin Cash. The way they're going about some things could possibly change. I think they need to work on that. I think you talked about, and I heard Richard Hart talk about the branding of Bitcoin Cash. And what is wrong with Bcash? Like it actually, from a branding perspective, is better that they call it Bcash or something like that versus Bitcoin Cash. It just sounds it sounds weird, man. I don't know, but
Yeah.
Bitcoin Cash, I think it's not. This is free markets. This is what decentralization is. On one hand, I think I do have some things that I think that they could work on and improve their communications and how they explain Bitcoin Cash. But on the other hand, you've got the Bitcoin maximalists or core people that almost, in my opinion, act the same way that the Bitcoin Cash people act in some instances. So it's like anytime I do a video about Bitcoin Cash, I have like 100,000 down, thumbs down. You get all these people just angry at me. I'm like, calm down. Like, it's not that deep. It's like, we have a decentralized ecosystem community for a reason, and that reason is that anyone can create and fork and create whatever they feel is a better Bitcoin, and the markets will decide. At the end of the day, the markets will decide. And I will say this about Bitcoin Cash: when I saw that Coinbase actually added Bitcoin Cash as the fourth cryptocurrency on their exchange, to me that was a watershed moment for Bitcoin Cash. I think it placed it in a different level, versus a lot of these other what people want to, excuse my French, shit coins. I think it placed it in a different category at that point. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, right? Because I think Roger Ver, from his heart, is aiming in a direction that he believes is true and valid, and that's commendable to a place to come from. But seemingly ignoring everyone else, thinking that especially with the conversations he had when someone called it Bcash, and I agree with you, Bcash is significantly more catchy. I wrote on his Twitter today, I was like, what's wrong with Bcash as a slang? It's shorter. This is a fast-paced market.
And you probably got slammed with responses like, coming at your neck, probably, right?
I haven't looked back. What I try to do is be as centered as possible when I say those things, so that if it's recorded, if anyone wants to say anything that looks ridiculous, they're the ones that look ridiculous. I'm just trying to have a valid conversation. And it's the branding that's really been so contentious. Their choice to consistently compare themselves to only Bitcoin Core instead of Digibyte or Monero or any of the other currencies that are out there that offer all these different transaction speeds or mining costs, etc. They're really focusing on just creating contention between those two. And
their PR campaign needs to definitely change. Like I said, I'm cool with, transactions are like sub a penny or a couple cent or whatever. I'm good with that. It's just the way they're going about it is a slightly concerning to me. So
it's malicious towards the whole community. That's one of the things that's upset me, is that it's only in their favor. And look, like I in my earlier show today, I was like, people call Ferraris Raris all the time. That's like Oakland-based slang.
In Lambo, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't hear either of those companies yelling and swearing at people to call their branding that correctly. It's like just such poor business acumen.
And this is probably why Satoshi Nakamoto, whether it was a group or individual, this is why they stayed anonymous, is for that very reason. And so we're seeing that contrast. We can see how does a cryptocurrency work where there's no figurehead, no one person behind it, versus one where we've got Roger Ver running around as the CEO of Bitcoin Cash. It causes, but it not only hurts their movement, but anytime someone that's against it, they have one person to go after. And it kind of just slows the adoption down, in my opinion. So we'll
very
see.
valid point. That it kind of has gotten away from the point of decentralization. And it's it was always interesting to me too that no one suspected that money was important, that somehow only having cash was important. Whatever happened to money? I thought that was what we were all after, was a store of wealth and a creator of wealth instead of just a way to transact. So cash to me is significantly less valuable. Whereas if Bitcoin costs more to send and transact, it's slower, you're less likely to spend it on dumb shit like shoes anyways. And which is, again, it creates and incentivizes saving. It feels like it has its own built-in creation of wealth, because now people are less likely to send it, less likely to spend it, which increases the demand when the supply is, or increases the demand when the supply is diminishing.
It does, but then you have, to play devil's advocate, you have people who say, well, Satoshi Nakamoto's initial vision for Bitcoin was that it would act more like money. You could spend it. I don't know. I personally feel like whichever way he thought or they envisioned Bitcoin is now an asset to me.
Yeah.
And it has been for quite a few years, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just because of it's deflationary, and really, as you just stated, you don't want to spend something that you know that in 5 months or even less, 10 days or whatever, it will be more valuable. So that, in my opinion, is not a great attribute for currency. So I think we will need some type of cryptocurrency in the future that has a little bit less deflationary attributes, and maybe even more on the inflationary side, but controlled and programmed in there so you can't manipulate it like our Federal Reserves and central banks around the country, around the world are doing. So
Yeah, Ethereum has kind of built that in too, where they're able
yeah,
to create more of it. And I agree with you. It's hard to abstract, but it is even with Ethereum, it's a deflationary process. If you're buying Ethereum last year at $1, and now you can pay your month's rent for it, you're basically paying a month's rent with $1.
exactly.
It's,
That's exactly it. Yep. So people need to kind of change their, kind of going back to the beginning of our conversation where you were talking about you've accumulated more Bitcoin. Yeah, that, like, people should probably start thinking of Bitcoin in that nature instead of the price of one Bitcoin to $1. Um, you know, I wouldn't compare it that way per se, but I know it's the easiest way for us to do that.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's where a lot of the confusion has come in from the last few days. Because normally, the U.S. dollar change is never what I looked at my portfolio. I'm like, well, how many extra Bitcoin have I accumulated through this trading? Because in my view, we're still going to a ridiculously highly denominated U.S. dollar to Bitcoin price over the next few years. So my only goal was to acquire more Bitcoin through this trading, not U.S. dollar. Although I definitely see where the confusion has come from.
Mm-hmm.
People in the markets are like Lambo and Moon. You hear all this rather childish conversation that you would never hear in a legacy market.
No, not at all, ever.
It's
So,
super wild. There was what else did I want to go over here? I'm working on something maybe where we can all get together. I chatted with Brandon Kelly about it.
okay,
I'm gonna call up Omar in the next little while. So hopefully in maybe by August I can find us all a place to hang out down here in Costa
sweet.
Rica
That would
and
be
have a
great.
have a not conference, a little more hangout, waterfall type things
Oh, that'd be
than
awesome.
too business oriented. So I'm trying to
Yeah,
organize that with everyone,
that'll be great, man.
and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely.
Is there anything you wanted to cover here before we jump offline? I like to keep the shows in between 30 minutes so we keep that nice
So,
compact information.
yeah, not really. I think we covered a lot of stuff here. Like I said, I think we're near the bottom. If we break this trend line that I've been charting, um, I think it's around where we are now, 7,000, 6,800. If we break that, I think we're heading lower, maybe to roughly 5,000. But
Yeah, I'm the same.
yeah, I don't think we are though. But again, you have to adapt. In trading, I always say you don't try to be the head honcho and call the bottoms and tops. You want to adapt and react to the markets because it's just basically when you trade, man, you're just looking at the psychology of everyone in totality. So you're
Yeah.
just kind of reading and reacting off of that. So that's kind of my take on where we are in the markets. Though I don't think it's all over and the sky is falling like Richard Hart was saying the
No,
other
that was
day.
wild.
I can't believe he was talking that way. But
No,
um,
Tone Vays too, even sometimes like, oh, we've never tested 1200. It's like, that's not even true.
no,
That's
that's
not even a
not
true
true.
statement, Tone.
Yeah, yeah, it's
It's
funny.
wild.
So,
Um,
and those guys they've been in here in Bitcoin as long as us or even longer. So it's just, but whatever. I think we will bounce off of this trend line, head back up. Maybe some gyrations in between. But yeah, I think we're good. I heard you're going to the Jeff Burek conference.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to be speaking at Anarchapulco. I think on the 19th is the day I'm speaking. I have
Okay,
to
sweet.
hash all those details out today. It should be fun and looking forward to it. One of my friends got me a spot to speak there, so I'm very
Nice.
grateful for them. This is a huge part of what we're doing, is trying to build these partnerships and this communication, because we're moving into a peer-to-peer world, or a business-to-business world.
Right.
What we're doing right now is the value. We're communicating value to each other, to the Bear family, to your subscribers, etc. And that's consistent and also reflective of what blockchain is doing in a disruptive form. That transparency of and human aspect. Without us, these things are worth nothing.
Right.
That's always confused me. People are so high on the tech. It's like, this is all about being human. And
Right.
if you forget that, it's going to be a difficult game to play in the future. So
I agree.
thank you for joining us today.
Many blessings. Yep.
Well, before we do that, remember to Bear family, give us those thumbs up. It helps other people later on down the stream find the information they're looking for. If you haven't checked out Crypto Blood's channel, make sure you do that. I drop in. I love the reviews you do. Again, like I said, that we're all building this ecosystem together. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to have a chat with you. It's just to grow and share, and know that we can call each other up as friends and allies in this space, and continue to move, grow, and build together, hopefully a brighter future for all our children.
Hey, that's right, man. Thank you for having me on.
Sounds like a plan, brother. We'll see you soon.
All right, take care.